bad show. Sam's 73 years old. He still sounds amazing. We just talked about it in Van Halen News. We have talked constantly about Sam. I mean, we've praised him in all different capacities. His charitable ways. What a cool guy he is. I have interviewed Sam multiple times. I have met Sam multiple times. I have seen him in concert multiple times. I have all his albums. Every single one of them. I don't know what else to tell you about it. He is definitely a nicer guy than Dave. He is a better singer than Dave. But here's the thing. And I love Sammy Hagar's solo career. I totally do. And we are critical of every member of Van Halen in this podcast, for sure. We're critical of Dave, too. Take a listen to the Dark Days of David Lee Roth. Take a listen to the Skyscraper episode. Holy shit, take a listen to the interview we did with Greg on the Ted Templeman book. That we gave Dave a real lambasting there. Take a listen to the Van Halen radio episode. Take a listen to the Crazy from the Heat episode. There's plenty of stuff in there. In terms of the live album that you brought up, well, I have to say that, yeah, we talked about Roth's got some clunkers on there, but the album is live. And having the mistakes in there, I think, shows balls. Not so much on Roth's part, but on the whole band's part. The Sammy Hagar album is not live. That's insane to sell something that's live that's not live. Why am I buying it if it's not live? That really sticks in my craw. It has nothing to do with Van Halen. It has to do with the band. Whenever you have a live album and it's not live, that's really upsetting. Now, would we praise David Lee Roth if he said he slept with 75 women? I can honestly tell you straight out the answer is no. Because the difference is he doesn't do that. Sammy is always trying to live up to Dave's legacy. He's always trying to meet some sort of cool factor. You know, listen, do we favor Dave over Sam? Yes. Yes, we do. And we've always been upfront about that. Van Halen is David Lee Roth, is Michael Anthony, Alex Van Halen, Eddie Van Halen. That is the original Van Halen, and that is what we prefer, for sure. Now, Van Halen with Sammy Hagar is Van Hagar to us. It's a separate band. Still love it. As much as the other one? No, we do not. I even like Van Halen with Gary Cherone. Is it as good as the one with Sam? No. Is it as good as the one with Dave? No, but doesn't mean I don't like it. You know, Dave, not so much. But, you know, listen, to sum it up in a David Lee Roth quote, Sam throws a great party. I am the party. So I know you hate when I do Dave, and I did that just to piss you off. But and I'm just being funny to say that. But listen, you're entitled to your opinion, which is why I spent all this time discussing it and reading out your letter. However, you know, in terms of, you know, Eddie Trunk and this and that, you know, listen, you know, Eddie Trunk is a professional broadcaster. I don't exactly intend to compete with him. Eddie Trunk has, I think it's over 30 years on the air. I mean, he's way ahead of me, for sure. He's on Sirius XM radio, for Christ's sake, so I don't even think we compare to Eddie Trunk. But I do know how to interview people and done it for many years. The bottom line is, like we said in the letter prior, is getting the juice from people for you guys. It's not about us. It's not an ego thing. Now, I don't have an ego about it, and it's not like I'm trying to rush anybody along. But, you know, I also edit some of these interviews where there's a lot of and people saying that. I know guys don't want to hear that, so maybe it seems like it's rushed along. The other thing is that, you know, Eddie talks about himself a lot and who he's hanging out with and who he's friends with and all that stuff, and that's part of his thing, and that's fine. I'm not criticizing him for that. That's what he does, but, you know, we don't do that, and Dave and I are not sitting here talking about ourselves. Everything we talk about on this episode is either Van Halen news, or it's letters from you guys, or we're interviewing somebody relating to Van Halen. It's not about, like, Dave and I and our own personal bullshit. So, you know, some of those things are, I think, not exactly warranted, but whatever. So I gave you your say. What do you say, Dave?
I say I'm going to pull the Quiet Dave card, and I think you hit the nail right on the head. I don't have anything to add other than, yeah, we definitely favored Dave over Sam, and that's no secret. We compliment when we compliment, and we critique when we critique, and, you know, sometimes people just provide a lot of ammunition for criticism.
That's true.
You know, so that's just what we do, and just trying to do the best podcast we can. And if we have biases, I'm sure we do.
Yeah.
If we have ways to interview that are just the way we interview, and, you know, maybe they could be different or maybe they could be better, I'm sure there's always room for improvement for stuff. But This is the way we are. This is what we do. And what can I tell you? I mean, thank you for the honest and open criticism. I appreciate it very much. Certainly like the feedback, and we'll take it under advisement.
We'll take it under advisement. Exactly.
Right.
Letter number 15 comes from James Harris of Clay, Alabama. What's happening, guys? I absolutely love your podcast and look forward to a new one each month. I love Hustlin' Dave's impression of King Edward. I laugh my ass off whenever I hear it. More impressions of Eddie, please. I have been a fan of yours for 3 years and have listened to every podcast you've done. Thank you so much for flying the Van Halen flag high and proud for the mighty Van Halen. P.S. Let Lazy Dave know that I think the Monkees kick ass. Lazy Dave.
You know what?
Dave,
I don't need another nickname. I don't need another nickname.
You're going with Quiet. You're sticking with Quiet.
I'm going. You know what? I think Quiet Dave, for people who know me, well, compared to the amount of talking that you and I do on this podcast, yes, I am Quiet Dave. For those people who really know me, that's got to be the freaking funniest and most ironic thing ever.
Yeah.
But honestly, I'd rather be called Quiet Dave than Lazy Dave. So let's strike that from the record, and we're going to move along.
Well, calling you Quiet Dave is like calling me Skinny Dave. It is crazy. So anyway,
it's all relative.
It's
I
all
guess.
relative. I guess
It's
all relative. I'm glad that you like my impression of Eddie, and I have this to say to you. I don't know. Why don't you ask Josh Coble? He doesn't seem to like Dave too much. He seems to be more of a Roth guy, you know? I don't know. Ask him about Sam. I don't know. Number 16 comes from B. Charles. And he says, dudes, great podcast. Listening since day one. Top-notch interview with Andy Aladort from last year. Listening again and noticed the extended discussion about the 5150 guitar. And he played the Ernie Ball 5150, not the striped Kramer 5150 from the mid-'80s. Noteworthy, because the instrument was blindly picked out by Andy and as an outstanding axe from Eddie's collection of 50 guitars lining the walls. B. Charles. Well, thank you, B. Charles. Andy is one killer guitarist, guys. So Andy Aladort himself, he's an unbelievable player and a really nice guy, and he's quite an axe man. Definitely check him out. And Dave, you have anything to say on that?
No, I'm not too familiar. I mean, I know the name, but I'm not.
Andy Aladort is from the band The Groove Kings. So you could actually check him out in that band. Look him up on Spotify. Letter number 17 comes from Rob Kessler. And he says here, so a week ago I had a long drive and I decided to catch up on my favorite band, and I stumbled upon your podcast that I never listened to, and I thought Greg Renoff's interview would be interesting. Imagine listening to your podcast for the first time and hearing you talk about Eddie Money at the beginning. I couldn't figure it out if I downloaded the wrong podcast. Luckily, I hung in there and didn't quit. The conversation about the new Ted Templeman book was great and got me out to buy it. I'm a music documentary junkie, so it was the perfect thing for me. And you mentioned a Van Halen song bracket that someone had come up with, and I want to take credit for that, because when March Madness basketball got canceled back in March, I decided to build different song brackets for different bands. Led Zeppelin, the Rolling Stones, Judas Priest, the Beatles, and we started with the mighty Van Halen, and the twist was that half the bracket is Roth songs, the other half is Sammy songs. It is attached for your viewing pleasure. Please know that it's a one man's opinion on songs to include and not to include. His final four were Mean Street, Light Up the Sky, Mine All Mine, and right now, Mean Street took the top prize. Gritty with tons of attitude, the perfect Van Halen song. And please keep the Van Halen spirit alive, since we are not getting much out of the band anytime soon. Rob Kessler. Awesome, man. Well, listen, Rob, thank you so much. I'm sorry about misleading you there with that Eddie Money thing, because that was sort of an inside joke to our regular listeners.
Oh, man. Yeah. Can you imagine? That's like the first podcast we listened to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm glad he stuck around.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And I want to say to Rob, Rob, I say this to all listeners who came on board recently or in the past year or so. Check out our back episodes, man. There's a lot of cool stuff back there. Don't be down on Diver Down, a different kind of truth, deep dive, and all kinds of everything you possibly want. Definitely go back there and check out some of those oldies but goodies, man. That's fantastic. Letter number 18 comes from Norm Campbell, and Norm says, I just thought I'd report on a Positive Van Halen item. I obtained a free guitar from a corner friend of mine who obtained it from a dead guy. It basically is a new Gibson Epiphone Les Paul, which goes for about $600. I plugged it into my amp, and it really didn't measure up to my two-stage guitars, a flying Gibson V and a Gibson Explorer. It's gorgeous looking guitar, but I don't want to use it on stage, so I decided to spend $150 at the Van Halen store for a Eddie Van Halen Wolfgang Bridge pickup. My friend installed it, and now it sounds incredible. I know many of your listeners play guitar, so I wanted to pass along a cheap fix to improve your tone if interested. Second thing is, my band finished its song Rollin' Stolen, and we're called Howler, definitely Van Halen influenced, and we're based in San Diego, California. Please enjoy from me to you as I enjoy and appreciate what you do for the Van Halen fans, and I'm paying it back. Keep up the great work. Norm Campbell. Norm, that's fantastic, man. So everybody listen to a clip of Norm's band Howler called Rollin' Stolen. Here's a clip.
Rolling, stolen, out of control and on the run. Flying blind and out of my mind till morning comes.
Well, that's awesome, man. I really enjoy that hard rock and groove, man. That's fantastic, Norm. Keep that up. As far as Eddie Van Halen's Wolfgang gear, anybody who is into guitar stuff, and Dave and I are not guitarists, but apparently his stuff is no joke. All reviews on everything EVH Wolfgang puts out is unbelievably high-end and quality. Everybody has said that. So that is fantastic, and I'm glad to hear that could help you out. And if you guys are searching for that Eddie Van Halen tone, that's probably a good idea to pick up. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, all that stuff is supposed to be really good quality. But the one thing I always hear is you can buy all the equipment you want, but the magic is in the fingers.
That's true, my friend. That is true, for sure. Hey guys, just a quick note of clarification here. So we start next with letter number 22 because we took some letters that were doubled up and combined them into one. Just wanted to make sure you knew that before we go on to the next letter, and you go from 18 to 22 so you know why that happens. Okay, letter number 22 comes from Charles Hodelman, and he says, "Hello, Dave and Dave. In the Jump video after the solo, Dave lets out a loud howl that is not on the record version. To this day, if I hear it on the radio, I throw in the howl myself. Is there anything else different that I didn't notice in the video version? Is this version available on CD anywhere? Keep up the good work, you guys. Rock." Charles Hodelman in 115-degree heat in Phoenix, Arizona. Well, I have to say, so funny, Chuck. I have obsessed over this for years, and I was hoping to get Ted Templeman on the podcast and ask him about this, but he's not doing any interviews, and I don't know why that howl is in the video. Here's a clip. Was it added to the video or was it removed from the album? It's a mystery. I think it was added to the video because there's no version that exists on CD. And believe me, I have looked for it. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, the only thing I could think of is that was the version they were using when they were recording the video.
Uh-huh.
And then they took out the howl at the last minute for the album.
Right.
But it was already too late because it was in the video. I'm unaware of it being legitimately released anywhere, but I have heard it on the radio. And I'm always like, are they playing the video on the radio? Like, how come I'm hearing? Because, as a fan, when you hear that yell in the middle of the song.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I have heard it on Connecticut radio. Or maybe it's Massachusetts radio.
That
one of the
is
two.
Weird.
Anyway, yeah, I have heard that. But as far as I know, it's never been legitimately released on CD or iTunes or download or vinyl or anything like that.
Right. Well, the next letter, number 24, comes from Tim Nora. Okay. Well, he says here, I'm a little behind on my Van Halen podcast listening, but I just listened to the Sam and Dave episode. I have two comments. One is, unless I missed it, you left out a great quote from Dave where he said, "Some nights Sam warms them up for me, and some nights he cools them down for me." Great stuff. The other thing is a comment on the duet. I don't recall knowing about that tour when it happened, and I have not seen any of it on YouTube anywhere. After hearing Brian Young talk about it, he said David Lee Roth at least considered it in terms of doing the duet. Wondering if you ever heard if Sammy had taken the approach of using the fans to get Dave on stage, and I think the right venue with an arena full of people shouting, "We want Dave," over and over might have played up to his ego. And one of you mentioned Desmond Child song scenario. Brilliant, and what a wasted opportunity. I'd add, if Dave was really trying to push for a full Van Halen reunion, that would have been the way to convince him, to tell him how